Hey, so there's this old saying, a cat always lands on its feet. It's one of those bits of common knowledge that feels a little too perfect, a little too neat. We've all seen videos of it, or maybe even witnessed it ourselves. A cat takes a clumsy tumble off a sofa, and in a blur of motion, it corrects itself mid-air. It lands with a soft thud, completely unharmed, and looks at you as if you're the one who's clumsy. This ability seems almost supernatural, like a minor superpower for the domestically lazy. For centuries, people have just accepted it as a weird cat fact. But it's not magic, and it's not a superpower. It's a finely tuned and frankly quite brilliant biological mechanism. And understanding it requires us to look at a little bit of anatomy and a little bit of physics. So let's get into it. First, we need to give this phenomenon its proper name, the cat righting reflex. It's an innate ability cats have to orient themselves during a fall to land on their feet. And it's not just house cats. Many felines have this ability. This has fascinated scientists for a long time. Way back in the late 1800s, scientists were genuinely stumped by this. They used the new technology of the time, photography, to try and figure it out. A French scientist named Etienne Jules Marie set up a camera that could take multiple frames per second. He dropped a cat and photographed the entire process. Well, just gloss over the ethics of 19th century science for now. What his photos showed was a complex sequence of twists and turns, not a simple rotation. This was a big deal because it seemed to violate a fundamental law of physics, specifically the conservation of angular momentum. In simple terms, an object that isn't spinning can't just start spinning on its own in midair. If you drop a book, it doesn't magically flip itself over. Yet the cat dropped upside down with no initial spin manages to rotate 180 degrees. So the puzzle wasn't just how do they do it, but how do they do it without breaking the laws of the universe? And the answer lies in the cat's unique anatomy. All right, let's break down the maneuver step by step. It all starts the moment the cat begins to fall. The first system to kick in is its vestibular system located in the inner ear. This is basically a biological accelerometer and gyroscope. It tells the cat's brain which way is down and that it's currently oriented the wrong way. The brain receives this signal and immediately initiates the righting reflex. This reflex is incredibly fast, starting within a fraction of a second. Now here's where the clever physics comes in. The cat does not rotate its whole body at once. Instead, it bends in the middle near its waist. This is possible because cats have an incredibly flexible spine and no functional collarbone. First, it rotates the front half of its body. To do this, it tucks its front legs in. Think of an ice skater pulling their arms in to spin faster. By pulling in its front legs, the cat reduces the rotational inertia of its front half, allowing it to turn quickly. Now, to counteract this motion and keep the total angular momentum at zero, the back half must rotate in the opposite direction. But the cat is clever. It extends its back legs out. This increases the rotational inertia of its back half. So the front half rotates a large amount, say 90 degrees, while the back half rotates a much smaller amount in the opposite direction. Once the front half is mostly oriented correctly, the cat reverses the process. It extends its front legs and tucks its back legs. Now the back half can rotate quickly to align with the front. The whole sequence is a beautiful two-part twist. Finally, it arches its back to absorb the shock of the landing. And that's the whole reflex. Then twist front, twist back, land. So the cat isn't breaking the laws of physics, it's exploiting them. The total angular momentum of the cat remains zero the entire time. The opposite rotations of the front and back halves cancel each other out perfectly. This solution to the falling cat problem is so elegant that it has applications in other fields. For instance, robotics engineers study this to design more agile robots that can reorient themselves. Even astronauts use a similar principle to change their orientation in zero gravity. They can't just swim through space, so they have to use these internal counter rotations. But the cat's reflex isn't foolproof. There are a few important caveats to the always lands on its feet idea. First, the fall has to be high enough. A cat needs about half a second to complete the full rotation. If the fall is too short, it simply doesn't have time. This is why a cat falling off a coffee table might land more awkwardly than one falling from a bookshelf. Second, there's a paradox with very high falls. Studies on cats that have fallen from high-rise buildings have found something strange. Survival rates are actually higher for falls above 7 stories compared to falls from 2 to 7 stories. This sounds completely wrong, but there's a reason. During a long fall, the cat reaches terminal velocity, the point where air resistance prevents it from falling any faster. Once it stops accelerating, the feeling of falling goes away. The cat then relaxes and spreads its body out like a flying squirrel. This increases its surface area, slows the descent even more, and distributes the landing impact over a wider area. It's a terrifying thought, but it shows how the cat's body adapts to the situation. So it's not a simple trick, it's a dynamic, adaptable system. So why do cats always land on their feet? Well, the short answer is that they don't always. But they are remarkably good at it. And the reason is a perfect marriage of anatomy and physics. They have a super sensitive balancing system in their inner ear that tells them which way is down. They have an incredibly flexible spine that lets them bend in the middle. And they have an innate understanding of physics, allowing them to twist their body in two separate parts to reorient themselves without violating any fundamental laws of the universe. It's a reflex honed by millions of years of evolution for a life spent climbing and leaping. It's a reminder that even in the most common animals around us, there are incredibly complex and elegant systems at work. It's not magic, it's just really, really good design. So next time you see a cat take a tumble, you can appreciate the subtle, high-speed physics problem it's solving on the way down. Anyway, that's all for this one. Take it easy.